Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one and all. This is a new series featuring on this channel. I actually have an open question form in my Twitch chat. It'll also be in the description of this video. And so if you have any type of question involving fighting games or the fighting game community that you feel like you want a more of a deeper look into, greater insight, you can submit a question with the form below. And there's not a limit on how many questions you can ask, so ask away. I can't promise that every single question will make it into a video, but I'll do my best. I'll do my best. So today's going to be the first video in the series of my question answers. So today's question, and by the way, I have no idea who these come from, but it'd be like that. Here's the question. Do you think fighting game teachers and coaches teach people the wrong way? Many times we hear learn BMBs first and whatnot, but never hear about the first thing you should do is understand the use case of each move in your main kits. So this is, you're kind of, whoever this is, I'm sure they know who they are, but whoever this is, you're kind of thinking about it in the wrong way. So to answer your question, the first initial question, right? Yes and no. Do people teach the wrong way? Yeah. In some ways they do, in some ways they don't. But here's what you should really think about. When your goal is to teach someone, when your goal is to really instill some type of knowledge into someone so that they are bettering themselves and they have this knowledge carrying forward, you have to approach it in a different way than most might be thinking. And so as a coach, and I say this having a lot of coaching experience, a lot of coaching is about structuring, right? It's about structuring things in a way that your student can understand, because that's usually where a lot of people's confusion come from, especially in fighting games. The problem isn't that they're incompetent. The problem is they have trouble finding the most effective ways to learn, let alone learning the actual skills themselves, right? And so a lot of the time in coaching, the reason that like one-to-one coaching is valuable, at least with someone who like understands this, is that an effective coach is going to recontextualize the problem and present it in a way that is easier for the student to understand, right? Because everyone learns in different ways. It's not like you can have a particular regimen and that will work for everyone. Not everyone learns the same way. And so, in fact, sometimes the disparities can be quite large. Some people learn by just like trial and error over and over and over and over again. Some people learn by like rigorous labbing. Some people learn by theory crafting more than others. Some people, when you present one of those like avenues of learning, they are not suited to it, right? They're not very good at it. It doesn't really mesh well with the way that they think or whatnot. And in some ways, like challenging that hardcore perspective that they may have is a good thing, right? Like presenting new ideas and new ways to learn and new ways to attack problems is important in the coaching process for sure. But I think it's also important as a coach to try to maximize on your students' strengths. And so like being able to identify this person learns or they understand the answer to the question if it's presented in this way, right? And once you understand that and you know your student, then you can start presenting things in a way that is easier for them to digest and easier for them to understand. And then it becomes easier for them to like kind of step out of their comfort zone, right? Once there's like a little bit of positive feedback of, I finally for the first time understand what this person is talking about or why something is going wrong, then they might be more suited to say like, you know what, maybe I'll try to attack this in a different way, right? It kind of like opens up like kind of like creative mind in some way. And so like, yeah, are there people that are bad at coaching and bad at teaching? Yeah, no, absolutely. In fact, I think a lot of the reason that there's a lot of top players in fighting games that are not good teachers, right? They're not good teachers. They're two different skills, right? Being an effective teacher and being a strong player are two different things. And most of where the lackluster teaching comes from on the top players is because they are learning solutions to problems only through their own perspective, right? The way that they attack fighting games and the way that they solve problems They are solving it for themselves and for themselves only. And so that's why whenever when someone else asks them, what is the answer to this, or how do I get past this certain point, right? They have a hard time articulating that because they're so used to only attacking it in their own way, right? They're not used to looking through someone else's perspective or recontextualizing the question to suit someone else's needs. That's a hard thing to do, right? And it's not automatic. It takes practice, just like being a good player, it takes practice. And so like, I would say no, I don't think they teach in the wrong way, but I think that if you feel like you're teaching someone and you're having trouble getting through to them, then a lot of the time it's not necessarily, it's not like your student's fault, right? It's not even necessarily your fault as a coach. You have to be able to recognize that like different teaching methods are going to work on different people and have different effectiveness, right? And the better you get at that, the better coach you'll be, and the more satisfied your students will be as well. Like the more growth you'll witness in them. A lot of the students that I've worked with in the past is like very, like I've started at a very grounded level, right? Just kind of understanding about them and how they attack fighting games and their philosophy, right? And then once you understand that, then you can start like, you know, building out plans and whatnot. But you can't do that without really understanding the perspective of the person that you're teaching, right? Or else you're just going to be, in some cases, just telling them to bash their heads against the wall until something sticks, which isn't really the purpose, right? That's not really the point. It's not really the point of coaching. In my opinion, the point of coaching is to avoid the head bashing, right? That's like literally the entire point. The second part of your question, you say, learn BNBs first and whatnot, but never hear about the first thing you should do is understand the use case of each moving your main kits. So this part, I actually kind of disagree with, right? And so like, I think if you're teaching someone, right, in my opinion, characters only do so much, right? They only, like, teaching someone about like a character's kit or whatnot only go so far, right? And the reason that I say that is because if you're learning a game, if you're like trying to compete, right, or if you're trying to become a strong player, what's more important is the system that the characters exist in. Why is that more important? Because no matter what matchup you play, and no matter what character you pick, that system is there, right? And so honestly, I think it's better to build fundamentals and understanding of the system that they're playing in, so that they can carry that. That's universal. They can carry that knowledge forth to no matter who they play against, no matter what matchup they're playing, it doesn't matter, right? That system is always there, right? Learning a character is important to understand the tools of your character, absolutely. But sometimes people have the issue of tunnel visioning on character tools, right? They think, oh, you know, well, my character has this, so I'm just going to focus on this, right? The problem with character tools is that they change pretty drastically depending on matchup. And what if you just decide that this character isn't necessarily the one you want to play anymore, right? Suddenly that crutch and that like understanding that you built just based on that one tool is gone. It's no longer there. And so I wouldn't tunnel vision too much on that. The whole kit thing is important, but I think like you should focus on building base fundamentals of not even just the game that you're playing, but like fighting games in general. There's like general things that like apply to every fighting game, right? Even though fighting games are so different. And they're like more general concepts, but like these things apply to like everything. I think you should start there. Start with like the very, very general, like, because not everyone understands that. I think it's easy for us to assume that like everyone understands like how fighting games work and how they're played and, you know, the nuances of those things. I don't think everyone does, right? They might play at a competent level, but that could be for a bunch of different various reasons. They could just be knowledge checking people. Maybe they, you know, just are going by intuition, right? Maybe they have an environment where people are challenging them, and so they get a little bit better through those means, but they're not actually learning what it means to like be strong at a fighting game, right? Or to really understand what goes on while they're playing them. And so, yeah, there's, I think that's more of the things that they should focus on more so than necessarily like, it's not really a character thing. Like telling people to learn BNBs, like that's like not coaching advice, right? That's like, to me, that's not really coaching advice, because I feel like almost everyone that is trying to learn fighting games in current year, they understand that, yeah, like you have to learn B&Bs. Like whether you're learning just raw, or you're learning from a guide, or you're learning from Twitter videos, or you're doing this or that. I think people understand that. Like they need to know what combo to do if they get the hit. Yeah, yeah, sure. Like, yeah, I don't think that's really that. I don't think that's really advice. Um, I tend to focus more on the why, right? Why is a very important question in how I personally attack coaching. And not every coach is like me, by the way. There's not, like, the whole overarching sentiment of this, that there is no correct way to do coaching. Like, I'm different from FeedDX, is different from Speed Kicks, is different from, right? There's a lot of different coaches in the fighting game community. And I'm not even saying that, like, mine is necessarily the most effective, because that, like I said, depends on your student. But I think we could all do a little bit better of getting people to gain understanding of the broader concepts, and that makes it so much easier to learn the more detailed stuff once they have a grasp of the broader concepts. That is a step I think that some people skip, right? I think that they kind of assume that everyone just knows up to a certain level, when in reality that might not be the case, right? If you skip up to here, then there's some stuff down here that you might have missed along the way. And, you know, if you just assume that way, then, you know, that knowledge never gets imparted to your student, which is why it's important to instead, like, that's why the relationship between coach and student is so important, right? It's so important because that understanding can lead to so much, but at the same time, there can be a lot of damage done by skipping those steps, right? You have a teacher that tells you to only do this thing, right? If they're only results oriented, they tell you just do this thing. You'll just knowledge check people to death, right? Yeah, you might get some wins here and there online, but like, what happens when you hit the wall? You're gonna be lost, right? That's probably the best answer I can give for this. I think, like, you should, like, really pay attention. You should really pay attention to, like, when people answer questions. When people answer questions about, like, how to do certain things in these games, how to learn in these games, I think it's pretty easy to tell, like, who understands this concept and who doesn't. Not that, like, it's something that that can't be learned or anything like that, but I think the people that understand this dynamic are the people that make for the best teachers and the best coaches.